Having car problems? Well, with Rhoda, getting them fixed is as easy as ordering takeout. They'll come pick up your car for free, do any repair or maintenance needed, and return it right to your driveway. They'll even give you a complimentary video inspection of your car so you can see what needs to be done. Perfect for those of us that maybe aren't so car savvy. Book your appointment online at roda.com. And lucky for you, CityCast listeners get a 20% discount on any service for up to $100 off. Just use the code CityCast20. Today on CityCast DC. If you've been keeping up with the new season of Love is Blind set in the district like I am, then you know the couples have moved from their pods and are adjusting to their real lives around the DC area. Now, the couples have all experienced ups and downs, especially Monica Davis, who was blindsided by an infidelity scandal on the show. But Monica says even after everything, she's still redefining fairy tales. Oh, and stick around after the interview, too. There's been a lot of conversation nationally about rising childcare costs, and the local nonprofit Mothers Outreach Network is trying to address that in DC with the ultimate goal of helping families stay together. They shared some shocking stats with us and solutions. You'll want to learn more. Today's Tuesday, October 15th. I'm Bridget Todd, and here's what DC is talking about. Monica, I am truly so thrilled to be talking to you. You're like, in my mind, you're like the star of Love is Blind. I'm so excited.
Thank you so much. That's so sweet of you to say. I'm so excited to be here.
So first, I want to just talk cast. What were your initial impressions of the folks that you were meeting coming into the show? And do you feel like they were representative of DC?
Oh my gosh, I was blown away by the women. They're all just incredible. They're smart, they're accomplished, they're stunning. It's a diverse group of women, which I'm so proud of, and I think a really beautiful representation of DC, from having people in the military to lawyers and just folks who are just very successful in their careers. So yeah, I was blown away.
So that was exactly what I was thinking when I was watching the show too. And thinking about you, like, you strike me as this beautiful, successful, put together, like, self-possessed person. And what has your dating life in DC been like to lead you to Love is Blind? Because in my mind, I'm like, this is the total package. Like, what has it been like for you in DC dating?
Thank you so much. That's so nice of you to say. I'm so touched hearing that. It's been pretty terrible. It's been really hard. It's been just not the best record of dating in DC. I think a lot of folks rely on the apps, which is a great thing that they exist, but it just that sometimes feels like a lot of the same and feels like work. And it's been rough for sure. The streets are cold, as I like to say, in terms of dating. Very cold.
Well, some of the, like yourself included, and some of the women on the show, I guess I found myself thinking, if these women are still single, something is broken, right? Like if these women are having a hard time with dating, something is up in the district that something's not right here.
Well, I couldn't agree with you more. I think it's the combination of things for sure. All the things that we could quickly say that like put more pressure on the male side of things in terms of like the dating pool and the options and how many guys out there are looking for something super serious versus casual. I also think for me personally, it's a moment to take just some accountability and have some self-reflection. Like I've definitely been someone who was very focused on my career. And it's really difficult to prioritize a relationship when you're traveling a lot in my 20s for work and trying to just kind of build a name and make something for myself professionally. So that totally has gotten in the way too.
I think that's so relatable, especially for a city like DC, where a lot of people are in the area for school or for work or for a program or a fellowship or something. I think people in DC really do take that part of their lives seriously. We're passionate about it.
Couldn't agree with you more. Totally 1,000%.
So I guess I feel a little personal about it. As a certified old, I am 39 years old. I feel like on the show, your age came up. And I guess I don't think of myself as like an older person. I feel young at heart. But I wonder, like, how did you feel about your age compared to the rest of the cast? Because there was some focus on that on the show. And I'm thinking, like, this is a young, vibrant, dynamic person. But within the context of the show, oftentimes some of the younger folks are like, oh, well, I'm already older. I'm 31. And I'm thinking, what? You're only 31?
Right? I'm like, whew, that is hard for me to hear. When I was leaving to head out to the pods, I did have this moment of like, holy shit, like, is this the right thing for me? Because I love Love is Blind. I think it's an amazing show. I've seen every season. And at that time, I think it was season 5 that was out, I believe. And season 5 was a little bit of a younger cast. So I remember right before leaving being like, oh my gosh, why didn't I think about this? What if all the guys are the same age as the one I'm watching? And obviously before you leave for the experience, you know nothing about the other people who are going at all. So I just decided to like trust it and go with it and just be who I am. And that's a 36-year-old woman at the time. And for some guys, like the conversation that you saw, that was definitely the most extreme one that I had in terms of someone being super not into me for my age. Like he wanted nothing to do with me for that reason alone. And I was like, it kind of hurt for a second. Like I'd like to say I just like brush it off, but I was like, gosh, like coming at me so kind of tough for my age alone. So it was hard to hear.
I was hurt on your behalf. I was like, I'm older than she is. What is he trying to say?
Right. I'm like, isn't this like Love is Blind? Like, age is, I would hope it would be one of it. But again, everyone can have their own preference. And if I'm being totally honest, in that moment, while there was a second of hurt, I was like, you know what? If someone had said they were 24, like I probably wouldn't have responded in the same way he did in terms of saying like I would never ever really go there with someone but you also are allowed to have that choice of like maybe that is a little too young for me. So he can have his preference, of course.
Very diplomatic.
Thanks.
So there's another kind of scene that sticks in my mind that I have to ask you about, which is when you're having the conversation with Steven, and one of the things that you ask is such a DC question, like, oh, what's your voting history like? Mm-hmm. Like, have you been voting? Are you politically engaged? I feel like a lot of people watching were like, oh, classic DC. It was a little bit hard for me to read your face when he was talking about having voted for Trump in 2016. What was your reaction to that?
That like politics and perspective and how people think about like communities and culture, that is super important to me in terms. So I was so glad to be having those conversations. And I am someone who tries to keep an open mind. Me personally, like I would never close a door because I'm a liberal person, but like if someone is like, I'm Republican, like that, I've seen some comments and things out there, like, and some people are like, well, what's wrong with being a Republican? But there were certain things that also do have to align. And so I think the first thing I'd say to answer your question is when Steven was answering me, I wasn't surprised, right? Like I don't expect everyone to do things the way that I do them or see the world the same way I see them. Like we can have different opinions. That's what makes the world and life so beautiful. So it wasn't surprising to just be like, oh, cool, like that's just different. I mean, now I have some follow-up questions and like, let's go deeper there, but I wasn't surprised. A lot of people voted for Trump in 2016, right? Like, yeah. So.
I mean, yeah. Well, yeah, he won.
He won, so a lot of people voted for him, yeah.
I think a lot of people might have an attitude that DC is a place where people are really progressive, really liberal. There aren't Republicans, but we know that's not true. I guess I didn't find it surprising that multiple people in the House had dated Republicans, had dated people who had different political attitudes than they did. That actually just seems to me like sometimes kind of part of life in a city like DC.
Totally. It's such a transient city, right? So you have people from all over. And DC, like, let's be real, like we're talking like the DMV, right? So I went to college at Virginia Tech, which is in Southwest Virginia, which is not far from North Carolina at all. I mean, so we're talking about, it is a city, how north and south is it? It's kind of, what would you say, like probably a little bit more north, but somewhat in the middle in terms of the Virginia parts, at least. So people with different opinions and perspectives. And I think I think if you're willing to, of course, stand by your beliefs and your value system, but just also have an open mind and hear people out of like asking the questions like, well, why? Tell me more. It's such a beautiful thing. You're probably going to learn something in a conversation like that, which is pretty cool.
Well, speaking of learning things, I learned a lot about Steven from the conversations that you all had in the pods. And there's a moment that I'm sure you were asked about a lot where he's talking about his ethnic background, you're talking about your ethnic background, and he says, "Oh, you're a mutt." I have
Hmm.
seen more discourse about that one moment than probably anything else that I have seen about Love is Blind in DC. What is
Yeah.
your reaction to how people are responding to that moment?
People are really upset by that. They're upset by, and like, just to kind of be completely transparent and put it out there, people are upset by him saying it and also by my response, where I say, yeah, I'm a mud. So, yeah, people are upset. Listen, I think that I am so proud of all the things that I am. And like, I'm a Black woman, but there's a lot of layers there. It takes a lot to like really offend me, but I am easily offended when it comes to race. And so I wasn't easily offended by that comment. I think the reality is, and I perhaps have a lot to learn there, but I'm mixed. There's a lot going on, and I've heard that term before. In terms of like, yeah, I'm a mud, I'm a lot of different things, but there's a lot more that I don't understand, and I would never want to offend anyone. And but we were also just having a conversation, and in that same voice, is it my job to like then respond and like educate him right there? Like I was just trying
Mm.
to get to know him, and he didn't mean anything by it. He was not trying to be rude or to offend me. He was just commenting on the fact that I'm a lot of different things in my background.
Well, I totally agree with you. And I feel like, I don't know, watching that moment and then watching the reaction to it online, you said, why, like, was I supposed to take, like, get on my soapbox and, like, educate? And why don't you deserve to have a fun, casual date in the pod? Like, why does it, because of your ethnicity, you have to sort of be like educating and sort of like making this a grand teaching moment? You deserve to have a fun, cute conversation if you want to keep things light. You deserve that too.
Thank you. And there's so much more. Like Stephen and I had so many conversations about race and politics and all of the things that are important to me. So I think when you know someone's heart and their intention and what they really think about people in the world, like I knew that he didn't mean anything. He's at all. So, and in that moment, I just wanted to have fun. It's a hard thing to do in the pods because you're thinking about getting married,
Mm.
right? Potentially, like there's a marriage soon in your future. So it's a lot of heavy conversations. And so when you can find those moments of levity, like you really like, I was trying to lean into them because I left the spots every day being like, I've never cried more. It pulls everything out of you emotionally. And sometimes you just have to like let things go and just, try to have some fun.
Yeah, you deserve levity. You deserve lightness, ease. I want that for
Fun.
all of us.
This is Kristen Bell.
And Adam Brody.
And we're dating.
In our new show, Nobody Wants This.
Right. We're not really dating.
No, in real life, we're married.
Right. Married to other people, not each other.
Oh, this is complicated.
Right. It's just like our love lives in Nobody Wants This, a show about what happens when a bold and sometimes provocative podcast host finds her unlikely match in a sweet traditional rabbi.
You can watch every episode of Nobody Wants This now, only on Netflix.
So I do know that we're asking you about this before you've had a chance to watch it, but I did want to touch on what happens after the pods and after Mexico when you're back in Arlington. It was pretty sad to watch. I really felt for you. We don't really get to see the full details, but it's clear that something not great happened. How are you feeling about that?
Yeah, that was a really difficult moment and experience and very disappointing and just hard, right? Like I was madly in love with this person, and there were things that we were working on, but there was no question about the love that was there. And Stephen and I had talked a ton about just my past experience with cheating, right? Like I think you see a little bit of it on the pods, but small commentary. But I've been through the ringer with cheaters, and so he knew that, and he like really promised to protect my heart. And we also see in the pod Stephen talking about the fact that he once got caught cheating, and it was like so I just, when I say I never expected it, I really never expected it. So I was speechless. I was the wind knocked out of me. It was hard.
Girl, I don't want to put words in your mouth. I'll just say, when I was first watching the show, I was taking notes. And one of the things I wrote down about Steven was like, oh, I can't co-sign cheating, but he speaks about it with a lot of emotional literacy. He references going to therapy. He references like doing a lot of soul searching after that moment. So I wrote that down. And then watching what happens with the texts when you're back in Arlington, I just really felt for you. I guess I'll just put it that way.
Thank you.
And yeah, I've been through the ringer as well sometimes, and it just doesn't feel good.
Sorry. Yeah.
How did you find out about what was going on?
So I found out by total chance, and gosh, isn't it crazy the way the world works in terms of the universe and giving you what you need to make big important decisions. I can't believe that I found out. It would have been very easy for me to never have seen that text message. So what was happening was we were living in a building with all the other couples, which was a really fun time. And one of the other couples had said, Taylor and Garrett, like, we're baking cookies for all you guys today, fall cookies, and we're going to drop them off. And so that night, Stephen and I were hanging out, and we knew that they were going to be coming by soon to bring us our cookies. And we're chatting, we're having a great time. Stephen steps into the bathroom, and as soon as he does that, a text comes through on his phone that's on the counter. And I'm like, oh, babe, Taylor and Garrett just texted and said that they're coming to drop off our cookies. Like, I'll respond. And I like go, not even thinking, to just then be like, yeah, we're here. And I see a girl's name. And I wouldn't have even clicked on it. Because again, I didn't no thinking that this would be going on ever from this person ever. And I remember looking at it for 1 second and being like, just click it. And I clicked it, and the rest is history. It's a pretty wild ride.
Have you talked to him since everything went down?
I have talked to him. That night was really difficult and emotional, and we took a lot of space and not speaking. And then in time, he took me out to dinner, and we were able to get closure and talk through things. And we're in a decent, good, healthy place. Like, there doesn't need to be a lot of depth there, right? But there's respect. There's mutual respect.
I almost said something. I mean, this is me saying this, not you saying this, but if there's depth there, I feel like I know where it's coming from, and I feel like it's coming from you.
Yeah. Thank you. That's so nice.
So something you said on the show was that before Love is Blind, you were really prioritizing people who had like a certain kind of job or had gone to a certain kind of college or who traveled a lot. And I do feel like that is pretty typical for a lot of folks who are single and looking in DC. But you said that Love is Blind really made you reassess that approach. It has been a year. What lessons have you learned, or like, what are you taking away from this journey now, a year later?
Yeah, I think that. Do you watch the show? Have you seen previous seasons?
No, this is the first season
Okay.
I've really like dipped into.
Oh, you've got to watch them all. They're all so good. There's one particular couple from season 4. Their names are Tiffany and Brett, and they get married. They're a beautiful Black couple. And when I remember right before I applied to do the show, I applied to do Love Is Blind like the next day after watching their wedding on TV.
Wow.
And she's this successful, sweet, like beautiful Black woman. And she ends up with a man who's all of those same qualities. But she said, it really stuck out to me. I remember her saying at one point, like, I would have probably never dated him in the real world because I don't think he went to college. I don't think so. And so if you're on an app, she might have just swiped whatever way I'm not interested is. But guess what? He has an incredible career. He's like a designer at Nike. And so how crazy to think that you would have missed this person that's meant for you because they didn't have a college degree. So in that moment, like, that's what got me so hopeful and excited about doing the experiment, if you will. And I will carry that with me. I think I've learned so much about inside out dating, right? Like, what's on the inside, and being vulnerable, like leading with emotion and asking hard questions, being comfortable saying, here are the things that I want for myself, whether that's kids or marriage or the type of communication you want. Like, doing Love is Blind Gosh, it gave me so much in terms of being very transparent and direct about those things early on and being comfortable with that. If I'm not for you, if that's too much, if I'm going to scare you because I'm telling you I would love to have kids on date two, then you're probably not the guy for me.
I'm so glad you said that because when I was younger and dating, I was really trying to model myself for what I thought the guy wanted. So like, I'd be like, oh, let me not say what's true or honest about what I'm looking for. Let me say what I think he wants. And it just got me nowhere.
Right. I think we all fall into that. And it probably also, it's coming on the guy side too, that's happening. So like, we could break down those walls and all just like be ourselves and say what we want, what we think. And maybe that would make dating in DC less tragic.
So what advice do you have for other folks dating in DC?
Just be patient, have fun with it, like keep it moving. If someone breaks your trust or hurts you, like, you can forgive, but keep it moving. And yeah, I think it's all about patience in your time. Don't take yourself too seriously.
That's very good advice.
Thank you. Thank you.
So what's next for Monica? Like, are you dating? Are you single? Can you talk about it?
I'm really happy. I'm really happy. Life is great. Like, the experience was wonderful because ultimately it gave me exactly what I was looking for. And that is like the answer as to whether or not I was going to marry this person. And I was able to recover and reflect and get back on my feet. And life is just really, really great. Really great. I'm super happy.
That is what I wanted to hear. And you seem happy. Like, I don't know. I think there's a stereotype of like, and I guess I'm speaking about myself, like career-oriented Black woman who is single in her late 30s. Like, isn't she sad? And it's like, no, you actually like, life can be full. Life can be great. Whether you're single or attached or whatever, like that doesn't have to be the end all be all of your life. You can still have a very full, happy life.
Totally. I say all the time, I like to think that I'm redefining fairy tales. There doesn't have to be one way to have your fairy tale, right? And if just like lean into that and let things happen at their own time and pace. And yeah, there's so much good. There's so much good happening for me right now. And I hope for you too. So.
Redefining fairy tales. I love that.
Come on.
Okay, rapid fire final question. I want to know about your DC likes, dislikes. So what is your favorite DC restaurant or bar?
Oh, my favorite DC restaurant is definitely Diplomat. Like Diplomat.
A classic.
With the burger there. Oh, that burger, that French onion soup, the shrimp salad, the fries, the ambiance. I'm obsessed. I love it.
Do you have a favorite DC park?
Gosh, no. And I love the outdoors and being outside. I like go on walks all the time. I don't have a favorite DC park. Send me your recs.
Oh, you're listening to the right podcast. we like Rock Creek.
Recs.
We like Malcolm X. Yeah, I'll send you some recs after this.
Okay, perfect. I need them.
Favorite first date spot in DC?
Well, I'm a Virginia girl. So I'm more like Northern Virginia spots. And I'm also like, now that I'm getting older, I think all the things that I think are cool are not cool anymore. I love when someone takes me on a first date and it's somewhere that I haven't been in the DMV. I love that. Like, I don't ever want to, that's why it's hard to answer favorite date spot. Cause like, if you can find somewhere I haven't been, that's exciting.
Well, Monica, this has been such a thrill. Thank you so much for being here. I cannot wait to keep watching. And listeners, don't go anywhere. In just a second, we've got a segment sponsored by Mothers Outreach Network. The nonprofit's founder is here to share how they're supporting vulnerable families in DC and how you can get involved.
Hey, I'm Priyanka Tilve here with Melody Webb. She's the founder and executive director of Mothers Outreach Network. Melody, it's so good to have you here.
Nice to be here. Thank you so much, Priyanka.
Yeah, absolutely. So I read on your website that Mothers Outreach Network is a, quote, racial justice and anti-poverty organization that supports Black mothers. Obviously, you do this through a bunch of different programs, but I would love to start with the why. Why did you decide to start this organization with this specific focus?
So first, just some data. One of the biggest gaps in justice you may never have heard about is Black family separation in what is called the child welfare system. Nationally, 3 out of 4 cases of child abuse and neglect relate to poverty. And here in DC, locally, it's about 80 to 90%. As for the why, so I'm a DC native, and my parents are very young when they had their family, and they did a lot of work in the community. So this idea of looking out for neighbors and doing what we can with what we have, wherever we can, is ingrained in me. And more specifically, the inspiration behind Mothers Outreach Network originated in my work in public interest cases as an attorney, which involved representing parents who had lost custody of their children to neglect charges. And the first time I directly saw the destructive role that poverty plays in these scenarios, it involved families who couldn't really afford utilities. And the Family Services Agency came in to examine their housing situation and remove the child from the parents' care, rather than, simply helping the parents to improve their situation. That sort of case is what motivated me to work on these issues. Parents really have to jump through all sorts of hoops in order to get their children back or, to get basic assistance. And it's just an expensive, time-consuming process. So out of my years doing this work, it struck me that the system often makes the mistake of equating neglect and poverty. And so I founded Mothers Outreach Network with the goal of supporting mothers who are vulnerable and returning from incarceration at that time. And now we focus on mothers whose children have been lost to them or at risk of loss to the Child and Family Services Agency in DC.
Wow. So basically trying to financially help families stay together.
That's exactly right. And our work involves other aspects as well. But essentially that is what we do.
So is that what the Mother Up Guaranteed Income Program is all about? How does that particular program work?
Guaranteed income is a type of cash transfer program that provides help to individuals in supporting themselves and their families, providing cash on a regular basis. And the idea is that it lifts them above the income floor of poverty. And it does this without strings attached and without wage earnings required. And, in DC, essentially to afford the bare minimum, data shows an individual needs to make about $30 an hour at a full-time position. And that study actually was done several years ago.
And we know inflation's gone up significantly over the last few years.
Absolutely. Our program is providing direct cash assistance to mothers who are currently or have been recently involved with the city's Child and Family Services Agency. And it's doing that for some mothers for 1 year and in other cases for 3 years, depending on the group that they're in. Currently, about 16 mothers receiving payments. And by next year, there will be more than 30.
Wow, that's a big jump.
That's absolutely right. We're very grateful for the support of individual and philanthropic donors for this work. It's through generous local and national private foundations, such as the Greater Washington Community Foundation and the W.K. Kellogg Foundation, that we are able to operate this program. And our hope is that through this program, ease financial burdens for families, and that we will keep families together. And additionally, through our research component, we have engaged the Access to Justice Lab at Harvard Law School to study what effect a cash intervention can have on involvement with the Child and Family Services Agency. Mothers Outreach Network's hope is that it will demonstrate that these cash interventions can absolutely prevent and hold involvement with the Child and Family Services Agency. This is not another unaffordable government program. It really presents us with new ways of thinking about tackling societal issues of the 21st century, which we started to do during the pandemic. And the pandemic showed us how economically vulnerable we all are. So it's absolutely worthy of support.
So if people who are listening want to donate or otherwise support or even just learn more about the work that you all do, how can they do that?
Absolutely. So we're actively fundraising and accepting donations. And I would love for CityCast DC listeners to register to come to our event on Monday, October 28th at lunchtime at the True Reformer building on U Street and hear more. There's so much more to learn about our city Come and have lunch and hear from moms, the Access to Justice Lab, and Mothers Outreach Network working in the guaranteed income space. And we would love for you to visit mothersoutreachnetwork.org for more information and for registering to attend.
Okay, perfect. Melody, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much. I really enjoyed it.
And once again, listeners who want to attend that upcoming event can go to mothersoutreachnetwork.org. We have that link in our show notes as well. So thanks for listening.
That's all for today here on CityCast DC. If you enjoyed the show, why not share it with a friend who's not afraid to kick a cheater to the curb? We'll be back tomorrow morning with even more news from around the city. Talk to you then.